Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Search.0. I'm Chris Harris, Senior Enrollment Strategist here at Capture Higher Ed, and welcome to April's Capture Cast 2.0 for Search, a strategy session with our friends and colleagues at the College Board. If you know anything about me, I've spent the last 25 years on the other side and in the admissions area, and I'm one of those search nerds. I loved to do search. I loved getting in there, looking at those names and trying to figure out what was the best way to move forward to build our funnel for the upcoming year and years down the road. You know, we started off with, you know, the sophomores and juniors, and now we're looking at freshmen moving forward. So this is going to be a great presentation. We're really excited to have some folks with us today, but let's first off talk about why we're here. We know that Gen Z and COVID have changed the nature of the college search process. Do you know how your prospective students are interacting with your digital strategies right now? And two, okay. The demographics are changing in the market. So do you have the right tools and data to identify your primary, secondary, and tertiary markets? Are you able to find pockets of students all over the United States that fit your profile who would do well on your campus? We'll talk about that today. Three, test optional policies and new methods for student search are evolving. We know that Gen Z is spending a lot of time on their phone and they're spending a lot of time online. So do you know how to leverage all of that data to make good, sound decisions about your search spend? And finally, print, email, digital ads, paid social prospecting, and your website. Are you optimizing your search strategy by using iterative data-driven approach? So as we go through today, we have two great guests with us, and actually there's a third that's joining us. Joe Hetzel, from our Senior Enrollment Advisor from Capture Higher Ed, is here today. And then Miss Amanda Soul, the Director of Recruitment and Enrollment Success Management at the College Board, is here today as well. So as we go through today, we're going to talk with them about what they see in the market, how they're interacting with their partners, and how we're going to work together to build you a better search strategy. So as you know, Capture is the premier enrollment and advancement organization, personalized so that we can go ahead and make sure that we help you identify, convert, and enroll the best students using our only behavioral intelligence platform. We're the only one that has this platform. So as we work with our partners and our partner institutions, we use our expert services to identify, convert, and enroll the right students and donors to our college campuses. And how we do that is we harness all of the data that is held in the behavioral data and predictive and behavioral intelligence platform. All of that data is put together and is offered in real-time dashboards to our partners and to our account executives and our team of experts. And when we talk about experts, we talk about enrollment experts, people who have sat in your seat for many, many years. We have data experts that sit behind the scenes and make sure that all of the data that's coming in is being measured for efficacy and for pinpoint accuracy. And then we also have marketing managers and writing experts and things like that to help put this all together as we move through the process. So we're going to start off today with our first poll. We have a poll question for you today, and we want to hear from you first. So everybody get ready to answer the question, and Sierra, get ready to go here. As related to the 22 class, how confident are you that you are going to reach your enrollment goals this fall? A, we will reach our number of students and our net tuition revenue goal. B, we will reach our number of students, but we will miss our net tuition revenue goals. C, we will miss our number of students, but we'll make our net tuition revenue goals. D, we'll miss both of our numbers of students and our net tuition goals. Or E, we have no idea at this point, but we're working hard to get there. So let's take about 30 seconds and answer that poll question. And while we do that, Amanda can go ahead and join us.
Hello, Chris and everybody. Can you see and hear me?
I can hear you.
Wonderful. There you are.
Yep, there we go.
I'll say that while people are answering the question, Chris and I knew each other early in our admission careers in Ohio. So it's great to be back together. Thanks for having me.
No, it's great to see you again, Amanda. And we spent a lot of time on the road and working at the OACAC exec board and things like that too. So it is great to see you and have this conversation with you today. So here's the our quick poll. As you can see right now, 41% of our viewers today say that they are going to reach the number of students and their net tuition revenue goals. But we got 24% that are saying, I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen here around the turn. So as we continue down this road, and it is April, April the 14th, so we're about 15 days away from that magic date of May 1. And as we process through that, Amanda, I was hoping that what are you hearing out there in the marketplace right now with regards to the students?
All kinds of things, Chris. I will tell you that if I had still been on campus, because I have before, so been in your shoes, and I have to say kudos and thank you for being here in mid-April. I would have been option E here for sure back when I was on a campus. So it is hard to know. Hopefully things are going well. You know, I'm hearing a lot of things. I'm hearing that some classes are coming in a little bit later. So some fingers crossed in the marketplace. More applications is still a trend again this year. So best of luck to the entire audience.
Awesome. So let's think about search moving forward, Amanda. And I think that's part of what we're really here to talk about today is how we move forward in the search process. And I think one of the things, and you guys have provided some really great slides for us today to kind of really get through this. But how is search working, and what is really going on with the College Board and how it's working right now?
Yes, so I think that's a perfect transition and a good starting point. So, I know from Chris and the Capture team that we have all levels of search users, or maybe people brand new to search here today with us. So I wanted to level set from the College Board side. Just our preview is we're talking about search today and how search works right now, because we know even though 2022 is hopefully kind of wrapping up for most of you, you're right in there, right? With 2023, 2024, even 2025 strategies are kind of going to be a big thing we talk about today. So, knowing that that is happening, we wanted to provide kind of a look at current search. And then the preview is we're going to talk about really exciting things happening with College Board search this fall, starting in September. So those are kind of the two buckets that I am going to be talking about today. And Chris, chime in anytime with questions. But I wanted to start here with how College Board search works now, because we have made some changes and enhancements along the way throughout the pandemic and continue to do so. So overall, right now I want to frame the conversation too, and just reminding everybody, you're taking time out of your day to talk about search. That is worthwhile. One of the things I didn't know when I was on a campus not that long ago is that search has true efficacy and it's really good for students. So your investment in search, your time, your budget, all of that is an investment in students. We actually know from recent research that students who are reached via search, especially first generation students and students of color, they're 25% more likely to enroll in a four-year college and actually 31% more likely to graduate and complete time in that college. So important that you're here today. College Board search, students are in the driver's seat with it, and they can opt in now in more ways than they ever could before. So what you're seeing on this slide here, that's kind of one of the big themes we're going to talk about is search timing and when students are joining the system today, both myself and the colleagues from Capture. But you see a lot of students, 77%, are opting in online. So they might be engaging with our Big Future College Planning website. They might be going in to register for a weekend SAT or check AP scores. They might be practicing on Khan Academy for the official SAT practice. All kinds of things have been expanded for them to join search online. You can also see that still a fourth of students are opting in the more traditional way. So when they're taking like the PSAT, which has been the biggest data load I can remember in my entire career, and still is. So they're still opting in with PSAT, AP, and SAT school day exams. But the big thing here, the big takeaway is we are also allowing students now to opt into search, even if they haven't had an assessment. So they can opt in online whenever they're ready to start engaging with colleges. And what we do weekly is we index student records. So tens of thousands of students are joining search every Monday, which is really a big shift from when you and I started in admissions a couple years ago. It was more than kind of the big data loads, which they're still important, but now data loads kind of change the shape of student records. We have academic context coming on top of the online opt-in with most of our data loads, and we'll kind of look at some recent ones later. So it's kind of deciding strategy of just like regular monthly strategies, reaching students whether or not they have an assessment, and then where does it make sense to go back in for those data loads. So questions here?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think one of the things that, as we have seen because of COVID, and you kind of touched upon this, a lot of colleges and universities were moving toward that more of a digital presence. They were enhancing websites and they were doing more digital advertising and marketing and using texting and things like that. But I think because of COVID, it just really exploded, and colleges and universities were really in need to move forward. So you guys being on the forefront of college search, it's really great to see that you guys are moving right along with that and enhancing what you guys are doing. So let's talk about volume for a second, because test optional is out there, and pre-pandemic, post-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of give us an update of where we are on search volume in mid-March with your recent release of data.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the most important messages today, too. So as you can see on the left, we have 5.86 million high school students currently opted into search. What we did here is we wanted to give you kind of that mid-March look, because we all remember mid-March 2 years ago is kind of when in the US, everything started shutting down. So March 2020 data, which you see on the dark purple or the dark blue lines on the chart, that's kind of pre-pandemic. So no impact to the data at that time from the pandemic yet. So what we really wanted to look at is the mid-March comparison to give you the look at search today, where there's 5.86 million. To give you kind of the year-over-year example, in 2021, mid-March, there were about 5 million. So we're above that. In 2020, before pandemic impact, we're at 5.7 million students. So search is larger today than prior to the pandemic, and that's something that we want institutions to know moving forward. You can also kind of track this by cohort, right? We know institutions are probably kind of done searching seniors. Maybe a handful may want to look at some new interest in my college 2022 students. We can talk about that later. But for the most part, if you look at the seniors and the junior cohorts, you see the little graduation caps. We are within percentage points of where we were all 3 years. So we're within right where those cohorts who were most impacted by the pandemic were in 2020. The really great story here that I think is an overarching thing today, like I mentioned, is the sophomores and the ninth graders. Students are joining search earlier than they ever have before. You saw that with the opt-in on the previous slide. So you can see right now in the light blue 2022 line, which is the first on each chart for each cohort, the sophomore clip and the ninth grade clip much higher than 2021 or even 2020. So you have more opportunities to start that early runway with younger students, as well as come back to College Board Search confidently to reach your entire funnel.
Which I think is kind of interesting too, Amanda, because when you talk about search and the younger students getting involved, the sophomores and more freshmen than ever before, that's probably going to help reduce the number of stealth people that are visiting your website. And we'll talk a little bit about that later, how we help identify those students, those stealthy applicants and those stealthy inquiry that are out there. But they are doing more research earlier in your institution, and they are on your website already checking it out. So it's really refreshing to see that they are actually raising their hands now and doing that search earlier. That's pretty awesome stuff.
Absolutely. I think, and this kind of illustrates it further. You think about the things that students have to be engaged in to opt into search, they're college going predictors, right? So seeing those ninth graders who are opting in now, whether or not they have an assessment, probably means they're more interested. So we wanted to talk now, that was a March comparison you saw on the previous slide. Wanted to give a little bit of overview of kind of today. It's almost mid-April in search, but really connecting it back to academic qualification. The College Board Search has been around for almost 50 years now, and one of the hallmarks of it that really gives institutions, a lot of efficacy is the insight about students' ability to succeed on campus with academic qualification. So we kind of wanted to pause and talk here. First thing is you see early April, some of you may know we had a rather large data load of the March National Weekend SAT and the March SAT School Day. So we're going to talk about SAT School Day. As a reminder, a lot of states, districts, and high schools provide the SAT at no cost to students in the comfortable environment of their school classroom. So you can see almost 500,000 students on that data load have new SAT context in search. As we were kind of saying, data loads are kind of changing the shape of the record. So it's bringing that SAT to search. But 70,000 of those students were brand new to search on top of that. And you can see states like Texas, Florida, and Indiana had a lot of students with that SAT context added to search. We'll talk about that more on the next slide. So we'll go over data loads. We have a planning calendar a little bit later for you. The big
Cool.
thing here I wanted to talk about, to kind of go back to the idea that College Board Search is a place you can come, as you always have, to get the students who will succeed, is that percent of cohort by assessment. So you can see that largely the class of 2022, 90% of their students have an assessment score attached to their search record. In the 2023 junior class, 86%. 2024 sophomores, almost 80% already, and a lot more are going to have that PSAT 10 later on this month. So you can see those no assessment names I was talking about are outsized on that 9th grade cohort, where you can really start to reach the students and their parents as early as you can in high school. The
Yeah, I
final
think,
bar chart that oh, go ahead, Chris.
no, I was going to say, I think that's the important part of this too, is it,
Yeah,
and you just kind of touched upon it, is it's not just the students, it's their parents that are involved with this as well.
it is.
We have found out over the time that, and Amanda can attest to this, that we know somewhere, some way, mom or dad is filling things out for their son or daughter. So they are getting that information, and they are getting that those touch points as well as they share
Yeah.
email addresses and things like that. So it's interesting to see that.
Yeah, I've heard anecdotally from parents that they are the ones opening that mail the most for the younger students. So, but
Right.
the last bar chart is just giving you the number of students who have each assessment on file. You don't have to go back to it, but
Okay.
a lot of students have more than one. They may have PSAT, SAT, and an AP score on file. So, you know, the College Board team, Capture team, we can help you kind of strategize how that works. All right, so we wanted to talk. I know when I was on a campus, and Chris, I'm sure you're going to agree, maximizing my budget and avoiding like duplication amongst different sources in search was really, really key for me. So one of the things we wanted to touch on today, and we're going to get this to you in follow-up, so you can look at it yourself and have conversations with us. But we wanted to touch on, you know, the momentum for the SAT suites and our partnerships with states. So you can see here that a lot of states, this has continued since the pandemic, there are a lot of areas where the PSAT 10 is given statewide to all 10th graders, PSAT and MSQT given to all 11th graders, and SAT given in school to 11th or 12th graders. So some, you know, if you think about the state of Illinois, I used to work in Illinois, and you can see here, Illinois gives the PSAT 10 to all 10th graders and the SAT to all 11th graders. They use that for their state accountability metric. So if you're going to Illinois, and I know a lot of institutions search Chicago, a lot of those students are looking to go out of state. If you're looking at Illinois, you can probably single source the College Board for all of the college bound students that you need. So kind of helping you strategize in that way. Some new additions to this chart. Indiana has long given PSAT to 10th and 11th graders. They're now giving SAT too. Texas is a big addition to the chart as well. So this isn't the full reach of College Board Search by any means, but just kind of a starting point for a conversation on sourcing.
I was going to say too that being that I'm in South Carolina right now, South Carolina, the Commission on Higher Education, one of their qualifications for some of their scholarships is that they have to have a qualifying test score, whether it be through ACT or the SAT. So that it's important that families and people understand that as well, because a lot of the colleges and universities in our state in South Carolina have gone test optional, but they still need to take the test and achieve a good score, a decent score to
Yeah.
receive state scholarships. So I think that also says a little bit about your volume numbers as well, because I think with your volume numbers maintaining and being better than they have been, people are recognizing that there is still scholarship money that's available for those who have test scores, because some of that stuff has not changed. So
Yeah, a lot of this is so important to the K-12 space, right? They're investing a lot for accountability and things like that. So that's such a great point, Chris.
yeah. So let's talk about reach. Let's talk about this class. Let's talk about
Yeah.
population shift and things like that. And I know that you have a map here that's been purpleized with from Gross. So kind of give us an overview of what you guys are seeing as opposed to this map.
Yeah, so one of the other things to kind of look at, kind of where should you be searching and kind of just in general give you some insight. Some of you may have read, I don't know if you read it, Chris, you probably did as a PhD student recently, the Agile College, Nathan Grau's 2021 book. If anyone hasn't heard of Nathan Grau, his first book, Demographics and the Demand for Higher Education, really helps you look beyond just the great witchy data to kind of see how is the nuance of demographics and college going behavior going to happen over the next 10 years. And it really helps you to plan and not just be scared of that narrative that can sound that way. But this is looking at, it's looking at the class of 2022, and it's comparing the reach of College Board search for that cohort, which is almost pretty much set in search, to who Nathan Grau estimates by state is likely to be college bound within the state. So the darker purple the state, the more reach the College Board has. So let's look at California as an example. And you can't see numbers on the slides. We are going to send it in follow up. And if you contact us individually, we can even get you more of the quantitative breakdowns. But if you look at California, Nathan Grau identifies in his book that 225,000 students have the characteristics to go to a four-year college in the state of California. So in College Board search right now for the class of 2022, we have roughly 244,000 students in California identified and opted into search. So the bottom line here is there are states where the College Board reaches almost every student who is bound for a four-year college. Can kind of help you strategize across the country too.
That's pretty cool. And when we talk about strategy, I think that's where we're going to go with our next slide, is really talking about how it used to be, or how it is now and how it used to be kind of situation. So
Yeah.
in this, the pool is constantly growing. So tell us a little bit about this chart and what some of the new data load parameters are for you guys.
Yeah, so this chart will send you again kind of to mark your own calendars. Overarching takeaway, Chris and I were chatting before the call, is, there are definitely going to be probably your primary markets where you may want to have a monthly strategy, maybe even a standing order to let search do the work for you to get students on a monthly basis. So that's going to be one thing with the weekly indexing that we have. The second thing is thinking about data loads and thinking about the shape of the class and maybe your secondary, tertiary market strategy. So for example, next week, April 18th, can't believe we're already there, we're going to have a lot of students from that first window of the PSAT 10 data load that was just administered this spring to a lot of 2024 students. So if you're looking for sophomore search, which most institutions have started that, that's going to be an important date for you. So I'm not going to go through every date. I will say, the last data load that we have of this search cycle, we're actually going to talk about the new search cycle starting on the next slide, is our AP data load. It's been a big trend that more institutions are searching students by AP context, and it's really working out, especially for that academic messaging. So research shows that students like to take coursework in college that corresponds with their AP coursework. So it's really powerful messaging ability that you may have to talk to students about something they're interested in.
And I think it's important that, and we'll talk a little bit about it later as well, that messaging and how you get it in front of those students earlier on in the process to create that meaningful relationship with the student and that affinity for your institution as well, because you can do it very early on and create that, for lack of a better term, brand awareness of your program or a certain thing that's on your campus that makes you stand out. So
Totally.
now here's the big change. Here's what probably the
Yeah.
biggest change that we've seen, and this is going to the subscription plan. So let's talk a little bit about the subscription plan and what that means for our partners and your partners.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. So we've been in deep consultation over the past few years now with users and members on creating a new College Board search that really helps you to better recruit the class that fits your institution. So that's the overarching idea here, because we've already discussed today how, search has been the market leading platform for many, many years and has efficacy for students. So we always want to be expanding our reach and adding more advanced features and services to make it more valuable and more effective for you is kind of the ultimate goal here, because the ultimate goal of search is to reach students. So to make you more effective in reaching students is a win for everybody. So to make more advanced features that you're going to see on the next slide, so I have features, pricing, all of that for you today. But so to go back for 1 second, Chris, but to make the features available as broadly as we can, we're shifting to a subscription model beginning September 26th this year in 2022. So the plans are going to be singular, modular, 1 year commitments to give you a more streamlined way to adapt to the continuous nature of recruitment that we know is always evolving. And I know Joe is going to talk even more about today.
what I
So we
what
kind
I what I was going to say, what I enjoy is that it's not done on paper anymore. I remember back in the day when you had to fill out the 35 pieces of paper for one search and then fax it in. So
oh
being
gosh,
being digital is that's how old I am.
I'm glad I
But
don't remember that.
well,
But I
thanks, Amanda, for making me feel even much older. Thanks, appreciate it.
We also, kind of logistically, just as I think about that too, we did hear from institutions that the subscription plan will probably make it easier for the budget, more predictable budget, more streamlined invoicing and things like that. So we're going to have more information coming there. So we're going to spend probably the most time here before I shift things over to Joe in a few minutes, but just looking at the overview of our 22-23 subscription plans. I want to say if this is the first you're seeing it, don't panic. We have a lot of time to help you with selection and meet individually on this. So I do want you to know that. But essentially, what you're seeing here in this model, institutions have the option to select one or more subscription plans to combine and access services and features to help them reach and recruit students. So along with the features, each plan will include a specific volume of student records. So you're kind of seeing that on the chart right now. So at the top, you're seeing the plan names. So the access A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, the cost of each plan. Then you're seeing the features included. And at the bottom, you're seeing the number of student records. So I just want to make sure everybody's reading that correctly. Colleges can combine or stack plans to more precisely reach their desired pool and budget, and they can kind of do that over time. We recognize that every institution is unique. You and I have worked in many different ones, Chris. So we have the ability to add features too if they're not in a particular plan that you select a la carte that we can talk about more offline with institutions. So what I want to do now is kind of go through high level all of the features that you are seeing on the chart, kind of talk about those, see what questions you have for your clients. Chris, we do, again, we'll have Q&A at the end.
Sure.
But to kind of start at the top, essential information. So there's always going to be those core filters in search that you have to have: contact information, demographics, major, that kind of thing. You'll have interest in my college. So as a reminder, interest in my college is your ability to access students who have put your institution on their big future college planning list. So they're kind of more like an inquiry than a traditional suspect name. We also have convenience, like a zip code, way to upload a zip code list filter. So that will be in every plan that you see. We also have our national recognition programs, which are great to broaden outreach to underrepresented students who have been awarded national recognition. We have programs for Hispanic students, African American, rural, and indigenous. Many of you know Enrollment Planning Service. It's a service I use on a campus. It's been around for many, many years. EPS, we often call it. But this is a market research tool. So institutions can research high schools and the context on the entire universe of College Board test takers that can enhance search efforts, enhance your travel plans, and also give you proprietary competitor insight to help you create more compelling recruitment strategy. I'm going really fast, so my apologies, but Interest in My Peers is kind of taking Interest in My College a step further and will help institutions find students with interest in colleges that have similar characteristics. So you can decide on your own subsets of peer groups where you want to know when students have those institutions on their college list. We have that in a pilot program right now that will have data out that we'll be sharing very soon on Interest in My Peers. Segment analysis service is another legacy tool that might be my favorite that the College Board has had for many, many years. But this is a data tagging enhancement service where you can identify prospective students based on where they live and learn. And you can really focus your search or your comm flow by descriptors and factors, like things like percent who are likely to apply out of state, so get at mobility, percent interested in financial aid, students' degree goals, income levels, religious affiliation, those kind of things that can really enhance your strategy. The next one, parent-guardian contacts, is something I think we've gotten a lot of excitement about. This is your chance to engage parents and caring adults in the process, which most of you are already doing within your application strategies, but this is taking this to the top of the funnel. Parent-guardian contact will include parent guardian's first name, last name, and email. More specifics will be shared by May. Landscape context is your ability to understand students' accomplishments in the context of the opportunities available to them, and provides opportunities for colleges to connect with students who participate in search and perhaps live in more educationally challenging environments. So lower college going rates in their environments, lower median family incomes, higher crime, We have a pilot data coming out from that soon. Living record, this is your chance to get updated information, to personalize your outreach, reconnecting as students engage with College Board over the life of your subscription plan. Student plans and preferences, targeting campaigns based on college plans and preferences that students share with College Board, like educational aspirations and the like. And then finally, search optimization. We will have more details out soon, but this will help you get the most value from search. So you can choose from a range of support like order audits, helping have your orders set up, customized segment analysis guidance, anything beyond your regular interactions with folks like me at College Board.
That's a mouthful, Amanda. Thank
you. It is.
You can take a deep breath as we move in. So, looking at key dates now, obviously, this is a moving process for you guys, and as you guys are building out, I know that our teams both met, our account executives and our sales team met with your team to talk about the implementation of this and things like that. So, kind of just bring us up to date really quick on what key dates we're looking at right now.
I think this slide's really simple. I'll make it quick. This is the info gathering phase. So in May, we'll be reaching out to kind of see what do you need from us, kind of how can we help you with their selection. We anticipate most institutions will select their plans in the new fiscal year, so you can start on September 26th of 2022. So we'll be in touch with more of the key dates. This is just a recap slide, not going to go through it. It's basically everything that we talked about, but in the lens of what some of your competitors may be doing. So we always like to provide that peer kind of insight. So like, what are other institutions doing that you might want to think about too? For example, we've kind of talked already a lot about order frequency. We've seen 40% of institutions increasing order frequency since 2020, as an example. So these are really great peer insights to kind of help you. Interest in My College, we talked about what that is. Right now, there's over 1 million current high school students with adult college lists, and most institutions have some of those on their Interest in My College list. So if you're not using that, again, it's in all subscription plans. So please do reach out about it.
Awesome. And here's just a kind of a review of everything you just talked about again. So I think it's really important. And Amanda, thank you for joining us. And want to tell Carolyn that we hope she feels better. Hope her voice recovers. But Amanda joined us on the fly this morning, and you did a fantastic job. Appreciate it. It's always good to see. So stick around because we may have some questions at the end and as we move through. But Joe, we're going to go ahead and ask you to join me. Hey, Joe Heltzel, everybody, and one of our senior account executives. And one of the things that we're going to talk about, Joe, is how we bring this all together and the importance of search and how essential search really is. Joe works with our partners every day to make sure that their search and their predictive models were working really well, and to make sure that we're helping our partners achieve their goals every day. So let's talk a little about why search is important. Good search actually builds a strong inquiry pool, and we all know that the first building block of any strategic enrollment plan is search. If you don't do search well, if you don't do search at all, it is really, really hard to build a strong enrollment funnel. Two, it brings brand awareness to your younger prospective students. Amanda just got done telling us that there are more sophomores and freshmen that are in your pool. They cannot apply to your institution yet. Okay, so it's really, really important that we start to build that affinity and that brand awareness with that younger crowd. Three, we identify areas of potential growth and opportunity for expansion and outreach. One of the wonderful results of our search consulting is that we can find those patches of students all over the United States that meet certain criteria that will do well on your campus. And then the way you can focus your search in on that area. And four, we recognize and measure how prospective students will explore and interact with your digital strategies. One of the biggest things that we've found right now with Gen Z is that some of them like email, some of them like digital ads, some of them like social prospecting, some of them just like to be stealth on your website. How they interact with you, starting off as freshmen and sophomores and even juniors, rising juniors right now, being able to recognize where most of those students are interacting with, you can put more resources into those areas so that you get better bang for your buck on your budget as you move through. So Joe, why don't you kind of bring us up to date a little bit on search consulting and what that entails for you as you're working with one of our partners?
Sure. Thanks, Chris, for having me on, and thanks, Amanda, for the great information that you just shared. Always appreciate an opportunity to work alongside our colleagues at College Board. So Capture's done a lot over the years as far as search consulting goes, and we know that any good enrollment management plan is going to start with search, as Chris just already reiterated. The days of maybe the Field of Dreams approach where 10, 15 years ago where you just showed up at work every day and your class came in. I remember my times on a campus where it seemed like for 10 years, no matter what I did, I was able to bring in my numbers. I still know that we were doing search, but I don't know that it was as intelligent or as targeted as it needs to be today. And so Capture has quite a few components to search consulting that we utilize. And so it all starts with meeting with a partner and doing an analysis, a historical analysis of their data. And so we want to take a snapshot of the previous, 3, 4, 5 years and take a look at how and where students have been coming from and how those students have been performing as they move through a college's funnel. And so we get that report back, and then that's what starts the beginning of informing our strategies. We see where students have been coming from down to the zip code level, which is really, really important because that allows us to cluster students together. And then we use a tool that's proprietary to us that's called Searcher that allows someone like myself in my position to go in on a partner's behalf and actually pull zip codes that are most meaningful for their search out of our system and use that to then drive the search strategies that we utilize with partners like College Board. So I can go in and upload some geodemographic data on behalf of a partner and then actually get back names, very specific names that fit the criteria that our historical analysis did that shows this is the profile of the student that is most likely to apply and enroll at your institution. And so with that historical analysis, you get an average, test score range, GPA range, all those things that will help guide the search. Along with working with the partner, then we can also get those anecdotal pieces that come in, maybe specific majors that we need to focus in and those types of areas. But if all we did was stop there, it still wouldn't be enough. And so you layer in all of those other ancillary services that also need to go with a very comprehensive search strategy, which is going to be print, digital, email. As Chris just reiterated, students nowadays may be interacting in any one of those mediums. And so we have the services to put into place where we can have a search strategy, obviously, that starts with buying the names, but then how do we nurture them through that process, regardless of whether they're a senior or a sophomore or a freshman. We have strategies that help nurture those leads and move them through the appropriate stages of the funnel at the appropriate pace so that they take the actions at the appropriate time that we need them to. And that includes everything from, as I said, print, email, digital, to utilizing your website and content that can be served there, because there are a lot of individuals that are on your website every single day. And if you're not harnessing the traffic that's coming to your website, you're missing out on a lot of really good opportunities there to enhance your enrollment funnel.
Yeah, I think, and we're going to dive into a lot of what Joe just mentioned about, but as we focus and optimize your search a little bit more, we're able to deliver engaged, qualified, and right fit prospective students based upon all of that historical data. We have data scientists that, again, will examine the historical performance and look at current market trends and really put your strategic needs and your thoughts and your goals up front to make sure that you're reaching that inquiry goal as you move through. The production of the sophisticated strategy. It used to be, Joe, back in the day, we would buy, 1 million names or 500,000 names or 300,000 names, and then we would buy 100,000 search pieces, and then we would buy 500,000 postcards, and we would send out blast emails and things like that. Really is gone by the wayside because of the data that we have, and we're able to control spend to make sure that we are getting the best return on our investment. And then we can pinpoint your successful markets with the predictive models. And Joe kind of related that search is not just one piece; it's just one piece of the entire puzzle. And we're going to talk about that as we move through some of the sources that we're using, Joe, for student search. We can run through these really quick, so we can talk about these.
Yeah, College Board, Encora, CBSS, so the College Bound Selection Service, Christian Connector, PTK for those transfer students that are out there. There's other services like Niche, Plexus, CapEx, and some of those college search platforms that are out there. Cultivating leads from social media. Most institutions are using social media as a way to find organic leads, and then stealth visitors to your website.
So there's a ton of stuff that's out there right now. And Joe, I went ahead and pulled off some data from one of our partners. We won't say who it is, but one of the great things that we get to produce for our partners is a complete year-over-year analysis of what their search is doing, each piece of their search is doing, and showing them how many names are out there, applications, those kinds of things. Talk to me a little bit about how you go about advising our partners about this data that you're able to provide them on a daily basis.
Sure. As you said, we can do a year-over-year approach with pretty extensive segmentation, and I think that's the key, is that every list that we upload essentially becomes its own segment, and so you can have names from Encora, names from College Board, that you could group as just, two generic identifiers. You could also break it out by the various types of tests that students could take depending on the purchase. So if it's College Board, you could have a segment that's just for your PSAT takers and a segment that's just for your AP test takers. And the reason that's important is understanding how those various levels of lists actually perform. You might find that, as Amanda was reiterating earlier, they're seeing a lot more validity with AP testing and how that relates to academic experience. You might find that by tracking those AP names separately, you're able to garner some different nuggets throughout the year that could help you in the next year's search. And so constantly reviewing this with partners, diving in, and you can't really see it on this slide, but I think on the next slide it's there. There's a view details function where it actually breaks it down and gives you that geodemographic information, so you can see what states are students actually applying to us from, where are they getting admitted from, where are they enrolling from. Does that match with historically where we've been getting folks? What states are emerging? And so I think every year you get kind of a reshuffling of that deck. I think you're always going to have, your strong primary area, which is, probably 150 to 200 mile radius around most campuses. That's kind of your tried and true donut, so to speak, that you always recruit very heavily in. But once you get outside of that, it's where are those pockets? And our system allows you to identify those pockets and then actually purchase more names that look like those zip code areas in those other pockets. And so it helps expand those things. And so revisiting this data on a regular basis is crucial in seeing how those names are performing. And so this is something I cover with my search partners almost every call, if not at least every couple of calls. And then when we do, quarterly ROI reports, of course, we talk about this stuff as well through that, because they need to understand how search is performing so that we can pivot throughout the year and also be taking notes and figuring out what direction we're going to go in the future.
Right, I think that's the important piece of it, Joe, is that as an account executive, you're able to listen to the needs and the wants, the goals that our partners have, and be able to help them build on a very personal level those kind of search parameters. So when we talk about bringing everything together, when we talk about building that intelligence layer, and it kind of made a little bit of a graph. So on the far left side, looking at student data, that's all the data that we're getting from the different search services. So whether it's ACT or the College Board, or we're getting it from College Bound Selection Service or wherever, that's where all that data comes in. But what we try to do is we put in this intelligence layer, which is the behavioral intelligence platform. So we take all of that data from all of those different sources, and we put it into the behavioral intelligence platform, and that helps us build out those digital strategies that we can go ahead and send information out to those students, whether it's a segmented group for a biology major, or whether it is a certain message that you want to come from your dean or whatever. We're able to provide those digital strategies to move forward, and then we measure all of that back inside the behavioral intelligence platform, and then from there we're allowed to use to have our spends be changed a little bit, so we can focus on what's working to distribute our spend accordingly from our digital spend. Then we can also look at how we can create meaningful relationships with students and influencers. So our counseling staff and our telecounseling team, who are they going to reach out to? Who are they going to talk to through this process? Really focusing in on who is going to make that inquiry, make that application, and then also help distribute print at a maximum impact. Again, as we said before, buying 600,000 search pieces and 1 million postcards and things like that is gone. You can't even find paper right now in some instances to even have this stuff built. So a lot of times right now, what we're trying to do is be pinpointed and accurate with what message goes out to what student, so that the parents can see it too. Because remember, parents always pick up the mail before the student does. So now that we have all these names, what do we do now? And Joe, you kind of alluded to that. One of the things that we talk about is responsive marketing. This is what we do. We help identify the student where they are in the process and nudge them along. So one of the things that we talk about is, here's the student search. We have purchased that student's name and we've started to work with that student. So we have a capture tracked email that would go out. All of a sudden, then their behavioral intelligence platform or the BIP profile is created. Then we move into digital advertising. That will run behind the scenes at the same time, again, pushing that student along to wherever you want them in the process. If they need to inquire, it'll be, hey, you need to inquire, or hey, you need to fill out your application. We're going to talk about the behavioral email series here in a second, but that starts off and that starts to run behind the scenes as well. Again, automatic automation that happens based upon who the student is, where the student is in the process. They'll fill out a PID form. We'll show you one of those here in a second, and then we'll talk a little bit about engage events. But then once a student applies, that's for another webinar when we talk about applying and then obviously completing their application. But you'll see how we touch students along the way with different things to make sure that they are engaging where they are, when they are, and how they want to be engaged with. And that's the important part of that. So let's talk a little bit about email and SMS marketing. Joe, kind of give me a little bit of background on how you guys as account executives work with a partner to create those emails.
Sure. So behavioral email series is extremely important. As we know, a lot of internet providers have changed their rules and regulations around spam filters and things of that nature. And so as they've evolved, so have we. And we now have what we call the behavioral email series. And this is a series that's used to help not only qualify the interest of students, but also push them to apply if they're seniors. If you're running a BES for underclassmen, so juniors or sophomores, it's more or less there to qualify their interest and then continue to nurture. And we do that through behavior-based emails. And so we create a responder series and a non-responder series. So everybody starts as a non-responder. They get served email. If they engage with that email, and engagement is either opening the email or clicking on the email. Ultimately for capture, our preference is the click, obviously, on the link. And then once they do that, they get moved to a responder series where there's major value proposition emails that move them to that larger call to action that we have, which is going to be applying and visiting if they're seniors. And if we're nurturing, it's going to be, the selling points of the institution, pushing visits, those types of things. And then, of course, utilizing Slate's capabilities or any other CRM's capabilities to push automated messages and texts. And a lot of that can also be controlled through the predictive model scoring that we utilize as well, so that you're, again, utilizing those resources effectively and efficiently and not just using the shotgun approach and feel like you got to send something to everybody. You can be very strategic and surgical with what you do, but it starts at that email level. And then gets even more personalized as you move through from there.
I think one of the things that you talked about was triggered email and how that operates. And this is just kind of an example of what one of a triggered email kind of looks like. So as a student interacts with your web page or with a paid prospecting ad or whatever, they can be served this email, and you could see on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, transparency up front right now. What's happening with that specific email? How many recipients has it had? How many openers does it have? What's the click-through rate and the unsubscribers? And I always find it funny when people are like, well, your unsubscribe numbers are really, really high. That's not a bad thing, folks. A lot of times you're cleaning up your funnel. But then you also talk a little bit about the behavioral email, and Joe, you kind of just alluded to it. But one thing that we did a couple of years ago as an organization is we actually studied email and how it actually really works and how it really developed over time. And we studied 500 million emails that we had sent out through our partners, and we improved our deliverability to 99.7%. Our open rate improved to 35%. Means it's going in the right place at the right time in that student's email. It's not going into some spam folder or some junk folder. It's going to the right place. And the identification rate rose by 7 times as well. So as you push through, and you talked a little bit about responders and non-responders, we pulled out some of the graphic for that as well. This kind of just gives you a snapshot of one of our partners who, their senior responders. They've sent out 323,000 plus emails through the behavioral email series, and you'll see that a 3% click-through rate's not too shabby. That's another 9,000 names that they're working with as they go through their process. So being able to manage that and being able to see what's working and what's not working, you can also manage the messages at the same time. There's a message that's resonated when you go to do it again later, maybe in a follow-up email later, or maybe even in a following year, you would be able to take that information from there and build out a better comm flow at the same time. So jumping ahead and talking about digital advertising a little bit, Joe, how are we working with our partners to address digital advertising? What's some of the things that we're doing in there?
Sure. There's a lot that we're doing within digital advertising, especially at the search level. There's a lot that can be done, starting with search list-based advertising, so email targeting and household IP, which allows you to target directly to the student and or to their household, which helps with those parent influencers. And then also retargeting off of the website based on where students are visiting your website, and then going back out and retargeting them from their web visits. Those work very, very well. And then of course with social marketing, so utilizing Facebook and Instagram to build out opportunities to pull in more organic leads through social audiences and pulling those in. Those are the ways that we're really utilizing that. And I think the success that we're seeing is definitely through social, but also those list-based targeting strategies through email targeting and household IP, specifically with search names.
And we talked about direct mail briefly before, but again, we're expanding awareness, building brand awareness with how we deal with our direct mail pieces, and making sure that it's all being informed by the predictive models that are running behind it. So as we're working with our partners, it's making sure that they are not overspending in those areas, that they are having maximum impact with their direct mail pieces. And I think that's an important thing. It's ecologically better for the world too if we don't send out a ton of mail at the same time. But I think gone are the days of sending out 500,000-600,000 direct mail search pieces. I think being pinpoint accurate is a really big deal. One thing that was new as a result pretty much of COVID and everybody being at home for a while has been this connection on the virtual area, whether we're on a Zoom meeting or something like that. We actually partner with Platform Q Education to help deliver on-demand video content and the live streaming stuff. So Joe, kind of talk to me about how that partnership works and some of the results that you've seen.
Sure. It's been extremely beneficial, especially through COVID. Everybody moved virtual for a long period of time. And as we've kind of emerged from our COVID hibernation and started to return to normal, I think people have realized that there's still value in virtual, in doing and hosting live events. And so I've got quite a few partners that have utilized Platform Q, and with its ability to integrate within Engage, they get the best of both worlds. They get the opportunity to curate this amazing content that's there on demand for students, as well as hosting live events, but it allows them to also identify students that may go to Platform Q prior to identifying themselves via the website. And all of that rich data gets aggregated within Engage and can be pushed over in reports. And so it also helps organically boost some of your search functions there as well. but it's just a great additive service, and we've seen a lot of strong demand for it, and I think there's a lot of efficacy for what Platform Q is doing, and I think it's something that certainly benefits our partners, and I'm anxious to see as we continue to move forward and distance ourselves from COVID, the creativity of campuses and how they'll continue to utilize that type of software moving forward, because it's not going to go away. It's going to stay there. It's here for good, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Pandora's box has been opened, and with Gen Z and actually their parents too and grandparents, everybody kind of got a new cell phone for COVID or something like that, or a tablet, and they're engaged on the videos online. And if they're doing any type of search for a college, they're actually looking at videos more than just website content. So I think you're right with that. So Joe, thanks very much for your expertise today. I really, really appreciate it. Hang on for a second in case we have a last minute question, but here's one last question for our partners that are with us today virtually. One more poll question. Based upon your research and what you have been presented today, are you feeling great about your current search strategy? Are you feeling like you are going to have to do more homework? Are you feeling a bit overwhelmed about the advancement in search strategy? Are you feeling like you can't worry about this right now? 22 is where you're focused right now, and you'll get back to search later. So we'll go ahead and put that quick poll out there. Thank you, Sierra, for putting that out there for us. I think I know where I would be. I'm pretty sure that I would be feeling like I need to do more homework. Amanda, where would you be at this point in time too? Would you be doing more homework, or were you just focused on the class?
I mean, at this point, I think I would probably have done everything I could for a successful May 1. So I think my homework as well, Chris. I'm with you there.
I remember one of my first OACAC meetings. It was right around May 1st, and in between sessions, you would see, it was before cell phones. That's how old I am. You would see all the deans and directors running to the payphone or back to their room to make a phone call to see how many deposits came in that day, to see whether they were doing well or not. So that was pretty interesting. So we'll see this last piece pop up as the here we go. So 23% are feeling great about about what they're doing, but overwhelming majority feel like they need to do some more homework. So Amanda, I think that's up to you and me and Joe to make sure that we get the word out, to make sure that they are doing that. And speaking of getting the word out, Amanda, you guys have a webinar coming up in May. Do you want to go do a shameless plug for it right now?
Totally. Yeah. So we're going to be covering our subscription plans we went over today more in detail. And we're also going to make these very bespoke in terms of sending out your historical data ahead of time to anyone who registers. So take a look at those. We can also meet one-on-one. If you go to that cb.org/new search as well, you'll get a consultation link to sign up to meet with folks like me and Carolyn individually too. So we would love to connect.
Awesome. Awesome. So some final thoughts from me. Obviously, search is dynamic and changing. As we have seen over the past 5, 6, 7 years, and even more recently within the last 3 years, the search component and how students are engaging with your campus digital aspects and how they're searching for colleges, universities is changing all the time. So make sure that you're addressing those as you go through. Make sure you're talking to experts and talking to each other about what's working and what's not working with this next group of students that are coming through. Gen Z is using several different tools to engage, and they sometimes switch off, whether they're in email and they don't want to do email anymore and they just want to be visiting your website, or they want that phone call, or however they want to do it. But you have to stay on top of it. You have to manage it. So make sure that you are collecting that data. Make sure that you're making adjustments to your plan as you go through. And finally, make sure you're taking your data and bringing it together, whether it's in your CRM. Heaven forbid that you're still using Excel spreadsheets, but we have talked to some folks recently who are still putting things in. They just don't have their CRM ups and running yet. But make sure you simplify and maximize your digital footprint by always looking at what's happening on your website, measuring what's happening, make sure that you're getting recruitment materials out there, and making sure you're setting up your admissions counselors for success. I think that's the most important thing. So Again, Joe and Amanda, I want to thank you both for joining me today. We're going to take any questions. I know, Sierra, we're kind of up against the wall here, but was there any one big question that popped up that we need to know about?
It looks like the only question that we got today, it was my understanding that colleges can continue in fall 23 without a subscription. Would that mean that the start of fall 24, would there be a subscription requirement for Search?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I'm glad you asked that because I meant to cover it. So the subscription plans begin this fall in 2022 on September 26th and run through August 31st of 2023. There is one more year, though, that you can stay on the per name basis, the way Search currently works. So you can do that for one more cycle this year. And then as of September 1st, 2023, we'll shift entirely to a subscription plan model.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So that is it. We will go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, Chris, Joe, and Amanda for this great session. Thank you to the attendees for spending the afternoon with us. Stay for the next capture communication for the upcoming webinars. Have a great afternoon.